Hello everybody. My name is Luba Tomashek. Luba short name. Of course, it is difficult to tell the story in my entire life here in every detail. Life is so interesting, so rich, but a short version is possible to tell, and I want to talk about this. Here we go. I was born at the southern Ukraine, a small but nice village, Konstantinovka, March 24, 1949. Most of the people who lived here were Polish, including my parents and relatives. My mama's name was Gelena Urbanskaya. Papa's name was Stanislav Soberzhansky. I am Polish by blood, and my name was Lyubov Stanislavovna Soberzhanskaya. In 1941, my papa went off to Second World War. He was injured in both of legs and received an award. Mama and papa were together almost 50 years. My older sister, Valentina, was also born in Konstantinovka 2 years before me. When I was almost 3 years old, my family moved from Konstantinovka to the opposite side of the beautiful river Dnieper, big river, to city of Nikopol. Here in 1953, my brother Vladimir was born. This was a difficult time for my parents because they started building their own house. My brother still lives in this house. Mama, of course, stayed at home with 3 children. There was enough work for her. Only papa worked in a factory. There was not enough money, but some relatives and friends helped us, and we always had food and clothing. But more important, we had a good, normal situation in the family, and we enjoyed time together. When I was little girl, I was crazy about any art. I liked dancing, singing, painting, acting out parts, acrobatics. In summertime in Nikopol often would professional performances and concerts. I watched all of them and would try them. Finally, my mama said to me, "Luba, arts are good, excellent, but you do not time for school. You need to choose one." And I choose circus. My suitcase and ticket was ready 2 months before I finished high school. The day after school finished, the train took me to Kiev, the capital of Ukraine. This was my first time in Kiev, and my friends showed me this beautiful city. We saw a wonderful circus program. I watched, listened, and learned more about the circus art and about the nice circus people. After this short but interesting visit, I fell in love with the circus. Definitely. I went back to Nikopol and thought about this. After a few days, I went to the Zaporozhye, where there was a small circus school. In Zaporozhye, I met my first husband, Alexander Yereshko. He was a circus performance, acrobat, jongleur, equilibrist, and the unicycle. We rehearsed together, and soon I started work as a performer. At the start, the marriage was very good. I was happy and I wanted a baby. But he did not want. He liked work and money. After 3 years, we divorced. I returned to Nikopol again. But I did not stay a long time. In the springs of 1971, a new circus building opened in Moscow. A beautiful building with 3 levels, possible to quickly change to water display or ice. I need to see this, and I traveled to Moscow. There were many beautiful acts, including a magic and illusion. This magic act needs an assistant. I introduced myself to the wife of the illusionist. And when Yuri Averina came to this dressing room, she said, "It is Luba." And she, "Okay." Yuri Averina said, "I believe you, and Luba may come to the rehearsal." The rehearsal went well. Yuri Averina said, "Very good," and I started working in really beautiful act and beautiful circus. In Russia, every big city has a circus building. The same acts worked 6 months to 1 year. Ivan Kudryavtsev in the springs 1972 with his Bears act was part of the new program. He was to become my second husband. Ivan Kudryavtsev began practicing his act with the baby bears named Gosha from Siberia. Patience, hard job, good condition make a miracle. Yes, exactly a miracle bears people call Gosha. Kudryavtsev makes bears do many tricks, and Gosha made Ivan Kudryavtsev very famous. In 1972, I started to work in his act like an assistant. In 1973, when we worked in St. Petersburg, Ivan Kudryavtsev had an appendix attack and stayed at the hospital 3 days. Advertising about the bears Gosha was very big, and the circus boss director asked me to work this act without Kudryavtsev. This was a risk. On the first day, the bears gave me a deep and bloody bite on my left arm during the performance, but I finished this act. The next day, I was back at work, and Ivan Kudryavtsev knows about this only after 3 days. Same year, 1973, autumn, I traveled to Barcelona, Spain with Ivan Kudryavtsev. 1974, 3 months we work in Budapest, Hungary. 1975, 2 months Ivan Kudryavtsev work in Vienna and Linz, it's Austria. But without me. I was pregnant and staying in Moscow. On my 26th birthday, March 24, 1975, I gave birth to my first child, a daughter named Svetlana. When my daughter was 4 months old, I started to work again with his Bears act. We traveled from city to city, and my daughter grew up on the road. In 1978, we worked in Japan for 3 months, and Svetlana stayed with my parents in Nikopol. July 24, 1979, we had a baby boy, same name, Ivan Kudryavtsev. And again I started to work. We traveled with 2 children, but we was happy. In 1981, we worked in Moscow at the Olympics Palace of Sport. In summer, we worked in Japan. My children stayed in Nikopol again. In 1982, Ivan Kudryavtsev celebrated 50th birthday and 30 years of work in circus. Many people who knew him and his many friends often give him parties. Ivan Kudryavtsev had ischemia, a heart condition, and because he drank, he damaged his health. Finally, the parties and celebration were finished, and we returned to Moscow, where we started to work at Gorky Park in the big, beautiful circus tent. Conditions were very good for work, but my husband's conditions was very bad. It was impossible to continue this for very long. On October 9, 1984, he died. I was alone with 2 children, 9 and 5 years old. In 1985, we resumed work with the same act and the same bears. In 1986, we worked in Georgia. One day, people from movie studio come to see circus program. After show, they make proposal for me to play myself in movie. I was excited. I said yes. The circus boss in Tbilisi gave me a month off. I had a good time making the movie. It was called 6 Days of Snow. We went to nice place at the mountains of Georgia. Snow, beautiful place. But 1 month was not enough because the movie maker were waiting for the right weather and looking for another locations. For the first 3 days, my bears could not adjust its eyes to the bright snow. The director of the movie called the circus, asked more time. The boss circus was not happy about this because people want to see bears act. Finally, after 1.5 months, the movie was finished. In May 1987, 100 best photographers from around the world come to Soviet Union and make photos in different cities all or same day. A day in the life of the Soviet Union. I was working this time in Sochi, and a photographer from the USA, Aaron Cheng, took photo, and this pictures was later included in the book. And I am proud. In 1988, I worked 6 months in Poland, 15 cities. I enjoyed this time, but my children again 6 months stayed in Nikopol. When I came back to Moscow from Poland, my children were again with me. We started rehearsing a large, grandiose show at the Olympics Sports Palace, which was to start in December and continue into January. I was very happy and excited. Later, I worked in Moscow, Circus Nikulina. I enjoyed this time very much. The boss of the circus was the amazing Yuri Nikulin. He worked in circus performance and make many movies. His son Maxim Nikulin is now boss of the circus. In 1994, I worked 3 months in Turkey. I don't like to talk about these difficult times because 2 of my 4 bears were poisoned. The bears were getting older, and soon I bought new baby bears. In 1997, I worked in a big Moscow circus program in China for 6 months in 15 cities. This was interesting but not easy, difficult trip, and I was very glad because this time my son Ivan came with me. When we came back to Moscow from China, I was so tired. Suddenly, I got a call from America, from Eugene Baranok. He told me that they saw a DVD of my new act, Bears and Balls. He offered me a 1-year contract. Eugene said, then I have time because it was now October and Carson and Barnes Circus did not start until March 1998. What happened next was like a nightmare. My assistant asked for vacation, and I and my son need traveled with the bears to our next city in Siberia. I thought we have everything what need for trip. The temperature was minus 30 or 40. When the train was moving, it was even colder. Our food and water, even clothes and blankets froze. But bears went to sleep and were okay. We had a small stove. My son and I would take turn feeding the fire and trying to sleep. We started to be sick and have a fever. We cannot eat because all our food and water was frozen. The trip took 7 days. Finally, we came to the city Novokuznetsk, and this nightmare was finished. The deputy boss of Circus first time to send performance to America. In middle February, big truck with 3-person bears and props travels from Siberia to Moscow. It was February. Snowstorm. Truck arrived too late to airport. Necessary to change tickets and some documents. 2 days later, we flew from Moscow to Chicago. Finally, America. Another big truck brought us from Chicago to Hugo, Oklahoma. This was March 8, 1998, exactly when people in Russia celebrate International Women's Day. Once I arrived in America and starting work in big 5-ring circus Carson and Barnes. Of course, this was big, huge circus tent because in America no special circus building. In Hugo, Oklahoma, Eugene Baranok introduced us to circus owner Dory Miller. His family were all part of the circus management. From the first day, we felt comfortable in this circus, even though we know no English. Because in this circus work 15 people from Ukraine, Russia, Belarus. In this circus, I celebrate my 50th birthday, and my son Ivan was 20th birthday. In this circus, we had a good fun, but 2 years went very quickly. like 2 days. In the year 2000, I signed with Circus-Kelly Miller. This was a one-ring circus, more like the comfortable circus we were accustomed to in Russia. But here we did not have a large group of Russian-speaking people. And now I understood that I needed to speak some English. In this circus, Kelly Miller, happened many different situations, things, good and not good. You know, it's life. But best what happened in this circus, I meet my man.
My name is Tom Tomashek. I've worked in the American circus business for 30 years, mostly as a musician and band director, but I've also worked as announcer, juggler, clown. I've worked in advertising and marketing. But the first time I met Luba in the year 2000, I didn't meet her directly or didn't see her directly at first. My first exposure to her was I saw a big painting on the side of a semi that the circus had prepared for her. Her picture was painted larger than life size along with her bears. And I thought, now, I've got to meet this lady. But I saw her picture on the side of this truck and I thought, I've got to meet her. And it wasn't long before I saw her going across the lot at winter quarters in Hugo, and I went up to her and said, my name is Tom, and I had my name embroidered on a jacket. I'm Tom, and I'm the musical director. What kind of music would you like for your act? And she didn't understand a word I said. She thought I was the ringmaster, I believe. But finally we got it understood that I played the music, and she didn't have anything special for me, so the next day when we had our dress rehearsal, I just played what I thought was appropriate, and over the next few weeks we worked out the music to her act, and it was what we used all season then. Luba and I were the two oldest performers on the show at that time. She was just about ready to turn 51, and I was 55. So because we were the two oldest, we were more or less placed together, positioned together socially when we had our parties and things like that. So we got to know each other fairly quickly, even though we didn't speak the same language. I remember I said to her, the first time we went out, I asked her, I said, you and me, maybe we go and eat. And she said, oh, okay. And we went to a restaurant, and she didn't know what to order. Fortunately, there were pictures on the menu of the food, so she just pointed on the menu to what she wanted, and we ordered, and after about 3 weeks, we decided to be girlfriend and boyfriend, and we've been together ever since. By the end of the first season that Luba and I spent together on the Kelly Miller Circus, we'd become seriously involved and talked about getting married. One of the issues was what was going to happen to the Bears. Her Bears were almost ready to retire. They maybe had 1 or 2 more years they could perform. I kind of made the decision in my own mind that if we were going to get married, it was either me or the Bears. So Luba turned the Bears over to Sasha, her assistant, and he took them and went to work with some other shows. And on January 30th, 2001, Luba and I were married in Hugo, Oklahoma. David Rawls, the owner of Kelly Miller Show, was our best man. His mother was our maid of honor. We had a big reception that evening. All the circus people were there, people from countries from all over the world, all kind of languages being spoken, and people laughing and singing and dancing and talking, and oh, it was wonderful. But then we started the 2001 season. Luba didn't have the Bears, so we came up with the idea that we presented the idea to David Rawls that she could do some clowning.
Wait just a minute, Luba. You cannot read your newspaper here. Luba, you cannot read your newspaper here either. Okay, Luba, that's just about enough of this. Get out of here. Luba, our circus club.
And my best friend was Kevin Ryan, who was the head clown on the show. Another good friend was Justin Loomis, who was the ringmaster. And we got together with these two fellows, and we worked out some clown routines. Kevin and Luba did some clowning together, some musical routines involving choreography and playing music. Luba did some magic and a plate spinning act along with the ringmaster. So David Rawls went for this. He liked the idea. And Luba spent the next 2 years clowning on the show with me. I was still in charge of the music on the show, the bandmaster, and anyway, we did that for 2 years. And but I had a good friend, Billy Ray King, who was a former saxophone player in my band, and he'd been with Fats Domino before that, and he was really quite an accomplished musician. He had just moved to Palm Springs, and he'd bought a horse and carriage business. And he contacted me, and he wanted to know if I wanted to come to Palm Springs and help him train horses for the horse and carriage ride business. And on the side, we'd play music in wherever we could, whatever was available. So we did that. Luba and I went to Palm Springs at the end of the 2002 season. I trained horses with him for a while. Luba just kind of relaxed and enjoyed things, and she liked being around the horses too. But it was by March or April, the horses were all trained, and I didn't have a job. We were playing music, but not enough to live on in Palm Springs. So we decided, well, let's go to Las Vegas, because she had Russian friends in Las Vegas, and I was acquainted with Las Vegas. And we went up there for a couple months, and in April, it was too hot for Luba in Las Vegas. So I knew if it was too hot in April, she wasn't going to make it through August. We decided to move again. And I said, well, I know this town. I played this town of Carson City, Nevada, and I don't know a soul there, But I've performed there, and I've always been impressed with the town. It's the state capital. People take pride in their homes and their lawns, and it looks nice, and it's a nice, friendly town. Let's give that a try. So on April 26, 2003, we came to Carson City. We lived in a trailer park for a little while, and then we rented an apartment, and eventually, over a period of time, we bought a house here, and we love Carson City. Luba became a citizen in 2005. Real proud of that. And along with that, we're involved with the local community theater. We perform, and I play music for the productions. We've been very lucky because we've been invited to be part of the performers list for the governor's mansion. I think it's 8 times in the last 4 years, and they keep inviting us back, and that's a feather in our cap. Luba's involved with the local Russian community here in Reno and Carson City, and that keeps us busy. We do the Senior Follies in Carson City every year, which is fun.
Those were the days, my friend. We thought they'd never end. We sing and dance forever and a day. We live the life we choose. We fight and never lose. Those were the days. Oh yes, those were the days. La la la
You know, love can be magic, but magic can be sometimes just an illusion. As you're going to see in our next act of magic and comedy, direct from the European circus, Tom Tomashek, David Hobbit on the piano, along with his wife, Luba.
And along with that, with everything else, we've been able to do some traveling through the last 10 years. At one point, we went to Moscow for 4 months. I spent 4 months, other than Luba and her daughter, I didn't speak to one other person who spoke any English at all. So that was a very interesting experience for me. And at that point, Luba still owned a home in Moscow, so we were there. Traveled to St. Petersburg. Another trip we took, we went to Barcelona, where Luba's daughter lives with her husband. I traveled there once. Luba went several other times to see her daughter. Oh, we went to the Ukraine twice, to the town where Luba grew up, Nikopol. Her brother still lives there, and we stay with him. He still lives in the same house he was born in. And it's a fairly small town, very interesting trip. We went to my family reunion. I have 4 children, and we went to Oregon and visited all the children and saw all the cousins. We should mention Luba is writing a book. Whether it's for publication or not, remains to be seen, but it's something for her children, episodes from her life. So she spends a lot of time doing that. As for myself, I keep active, juggling every day, play music at home. New experiments, I'm learning to walk on stilts and learning to walk on an unsupported ladder. So we do that.
An evening we sit, watch TV and fireplace. Oh, it's amazing.
Nice fireplace.
Especially winter time.
Life is good, but life is not over. We're going to see what happens in the future.